What's up guys, it's Nick here at Fantasy Forge Miniatures, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make some forest scatter. The first campaign I ever ran started in a forest with the party getting attacked by some goblins. Now I'm sure you've had something similar happen, and if you haven't, I guarantee you there's going to be a forest encounter in your future. So let's give your goblins or monsters something to hide behind. Let's get crafting.
Alright, so we're going to start off by creating a log. So we're going to grab some tin foil and just start crumpling it up into a general log shape. Always gauging it off our minis to make sure that it's always coming out to be a good size. Now we're just crumpling it down, and you're going to want to remember to make it a little bit smaller than you want your final product because we're going to be wrapping it in clay. So we're going to grab our pasta maker, and if you don't, you can just use a rolling pin. And we're going to grab some super sculpey, flatten it a bit, and pass it through the machine at the highest setting. And then we're going to take that, and we're going to start covering our tinfoil log shape here. So we're just going to roll the tinfoil right into there, and we're going to cut away the excess, and then on both ends as well. And then we're just going to start melding that seam together and blending that really nicely. So once we got it covered in clay, we're going to cut some circular pieces for the ends of the log. So you can make them a little bit smaller. We want to leave a little bit of that edge to look like kind of bark that's left over. So leaving a little bit of an overlap there, you can see there just kind of sticking out, is a great way to get that kind of bark look. So looking like a good size for our minis there. And now we're just going to start to texture a little bit. I'm kind of adding some notches in there, and then we're going to just start laying in some cuts using some dental tools or sculpting tools, whatever you got. You can use a pencil, whatever you'd like. But we're just going to start just kind of randomly marking it up with some gashes to look like bark. And now I'm just making a little bit of a swirl groove on the inside to act like the inside of the stump with the rings going on there. So just kind of making a swirly cut shape. Now I'm just adding some more texture with a color shaper tool there, and now I'm just grabbing a little piece of super sculpey, and this is going to be some kind of like nub broken branch of the log, and then I'm just going to blend it into place there. And you can do these wherever you'd like. I'm going to be adding some notches and some holes to act like broken branches, and that kind of adds a little bit more realism to it there. And so you can add bunch of those just using a small ball stylus. And then again, just roughing up that texture just to make sure it's looking good. And there we go, our log is ready to be baked. So now we're gonna make a stump because we're gonna bake them all together. So I'm just crumpling this up into a kind of general ball, and then I'm flattening it on the table into a stump shape. And now, again, just grabbing some super sculpey through the pasta machine, and then just going to start draping it over the tin foil there. And it's okay if there's kind of bumps and lumps on this one. It is a stump. And then we're just going to cut away that extra super sculpey there, just around the base. And then we're going to blend that edge so it's nice and smooth. Now we're going to just cut a straight piece of super sculpey, and this is going to get blended in to the stump to create kind of that bark look like we did on the log. So we're just going to wrap it around the stump like that, and then blend the one edge into the sculpt there, and we're gonna get this nice lip. So now I'm just gonna grab some super sculpey again, and we're gonna roll a little snake of clay, and we're going to put that on the outside of the stumps to act as the roots. So you can just roll out a little piece and then grab your cutter and just cut it in half, and those are great way to make roots. We're going to blend these all onto the stump once we get them all in place. So just placing all the roots to start off with, and then we're going to grab our color shaper tool and just blend them all into the stump, and they're going to really start to look like nice roots. Again, with this tool, you can start to add a little bit of the texture as well to it there, just creasing it up and down to add some bark texture to it. Then using a dental tool, again, I'm just making kind of a swirl cut pattern to look like the top of the stump, and then just adding some cracks and lines for the edge. And then I'm just using the knife tool to kind of rough up that bark edge there, and adding some more texture with another tool because it sometimes can get a bit mashed. But there we go, we've got our stump and our log. Now we're going to do one more piece before we bake them. So again with the tin foil, and this one is going to be kind of like a bush landscape piece. So we're going to make just kind of a small hill. We're going to want it flush with the ground. That's why I'm just kind of pushing it right into the mat there to get a nice smooth taper. And again, past the machine, making our super sculpty super flat. And then we're just going to cover our piece of tin foil there again and just kind of taper off that clay into the ground. Then we're just going to cut away that extra super sculpey, and then we're going to grab some wax paper to really smooth out the edges so that it doesn't stick to our mat, and so we can transport it to the oven nicely. So just tapering off that piece. Now we're going to grab a couple pieces of wire. You can use paper clips, whatever you'd like, just cutting them down to a little bit of a smaller size, and these are going to act as the branches or kind of like the base of our bush. So just texturing with a little bit with a tin foil there to get the ground look, and then we're just going to start sticking in these little pieces of wire, and this is going to start creating our bush. So once we do that, I'm just going to roll a little snake of clay and just start wrapping a couple of the wires just to give some variation between them and kind of like bulk out the branches a little bit to add some variant. So once we've done that, we've got all of our pieces, our stump, our bush, and our log ready to go, and we're going to go bake them. So once they're baked, we're going to get some Real Brown here by Folk Art, and we're just going to start base coating them. So we're just going to cover these top to bottom. I'm going to be painting these all at the same time, so we're going to coat all of them with the same Real Brown by Folk Art. It's a nice darker brown, and we're just going to make sure that we cover the piece entirely. Now before we do the bush one, I'm going to grab some super glue because some of these wires were a little bit loose and were able to come out, so just adding a bead of super glue and then gluing those back into place, and then they held really well. So after that, we can continue on painting, just giving it that base coat of brown. So now we're going to grab a lighter brown here just to add some variant in the different colors of brown. You can use whatever kind of warmer brown to use. We're just dry brushing there. You can see brushed off the extra, and then just going on with a fairly heavy dry brush. You don't have to be too gentle with this one because it's just to add a bit of variant between the browns for more realism. So just getting the stump there and also our bush kind of landscape piece there as well. So once we've done that, we're going to go for the coffee latte lighter brown. Again, just dry brushing a bit of a lighter coat. This is going to start to bring out our highlights and really show the detail that we put into those sculpts. This isn't our lightest highlight yet, but it's really starting to bring out those details. So doing that for the stump as well as the ground. So once we've done all of that, again, another dry brush, and this is Linen by Folk Art, and this is going to be a really light dry brushing to just bring out the last little bit of detail, and you can see there it's starting to really show. And we always want to try to make it look like the light is getting cast down and get that little bit of realism. So now I'm mixing a little bit of raw sienna with our linen there to create kind of a warm, lighter color for the inside of our stump, just to break up the color palette on our stump ends there, and that's looking a little bit differentiation between the raw wood and the bark. So now that all of our pieces are nicely painted, we're going to grab some of this wash. Now this is black speedball ink mixed with some Flow-Aid, mixed with some water, and it makes to a great wash. So we're just going to start spritzing it. This was just a dollar store spritzer bottle I found, and just spraying that to get some good coverage. And then the ink and the water are going to slide right into the cracks and then dry really pushing that contrast between our highlights and our recesses. So once that's dried, I'm going to go over one more time with the linen just to bring those highlights back out a bit and really show that detail, and we're getting some really nice contrast and really great readability from a distance. So going to do that to all of the pieces, and once that's done, we're going to grab a cup, some flocking here, and we're going to just pour some of that in there, good healthy amount, and then mix it with just some regular school white glue. And this is going to be kind of the moss that we're going to stick everywhere. So getting a healthy amount of glue in there, we're going to start mixing that together to make this sticky moss, which we're going to then start coating our log to add some more realism. So you should get a nice consistency. You can add more or less as you'd like. And then we're just going to start scraping it over our sculpts here. So what's really nice about this is actually the cracks and the recesses are going to catch the moss very naturally, because moss grows in crevices and all that kind of stuff. So when you scrape it over, it's going to catch on those kinds of spots. So for the stump here, I'm just getting a little bit of moss in between each one of the roots, and then a little bit on the top. But you want to be careful. You don't want to put too much and cover all of your hard work and all of your sculpting details. But for the ground piece, I'm going to cover this one head to toe on the ground, and maybe just let a little bit of the ground show through. So now I'm going to grab some dollar store pebbles. These ones I just found at the dollar store, really cheap, and they're really great for terrain pieces. So again, with the super glue, I'm just going to go ahead and super glue a couple of these stones onto the landscape piece here. And that's really starting to look nice. Now we're going to add some lichen moss there on top, just suspended over the branches, and it's going to get a nice bush look. We're going to grab some tacky glue spray there, and we're just going to spray the entire piece, because then after this we're going to start sprinkling it with a bit of flocking to add some more detail. So sprinkling it on pretty generously, and then scraping any pieces that fall off and just kind of tacking them on there. And for the final coat, we're just going to grab some Mod Podge matte spray and seal those in place. And there you have it, our finished terrain pieces.
And that's it, guys. It's that easy. Go ahead, make piles of forest scatter. It's always great to give your players a lot of options to interact with the environment. I'd love to hear how you guys make your forest scatter. Hit me up in the comments, and if you got any suggestions for future videos, throw them in there too. If you found this video helpful, hit the like button, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification if you want to stay up to date with all my videos. Thanks for watching, guys, and as always, keep on crafting.